Hello. In the previous video you have seen about revenue, so now we'll talk about cost. Okay, first thing, let me give you some formulas on cost. You have total variable cost and you'll have average cost. First, what is total, and we'll have also total cost, of course. Total variable cost will be the variable cost multiplied by the quantity. So total variable cost equals to what? Variable cost multiplied by the quantity. And let's talk about total cost. Total cost is fixed cost plus total variable cost. And what's the total variable cost? You can plug in this here. So total cost will be fixed cost plus variable cost multiplied by the quantity. So this is our total cost. And what is average cost? Average cost is total cost divided by the quantity. So average cost is total cost divided by quantity. What's the total cost? Instead of this total cost, you can plug in this formula here. So it's going to be fixed cost plus variable cost times quantity divided by quantity. Now you can split this fraction by doing fixed cost over quantity plus variable cost times quantity over quantity, like it's the same denominator here. So here this quantity can be cancelled with this quantity, so the formula for the average cost will be fixed cost over quantity plus variable cost. So now here we have these important formulas. This is an important formula here, and also this one is an important formula. So I want you to know these two formulas, that total cost is fixed cost plus variable cost times quantity, and that average cost is fixed cost over quantity plus the variable cost. Okay, once we do examples, I hope you will understand more. Let's see an example here. It says that this is an example. Given that fixed costs are 1000 and the variable costs are 4 per unit, express the total cost and the average cost as functions of this quantity, and we want to sketch their graphs. Okay, so I'll start with the total cost. Total cost is, as I told you, fixed cost plus variable cost times quantity. Your fixed cost is here 1000 plus the variable cost is here 4 times Q. So this is total cost. So let's start by sketching this graph, and then we will go to the average cost. By the way, here it's asking you to express TC as a function of Q. So total cost is as a function of here what? Q. The only variable that you have here is quantity, so we already have done this part. So now we're left with sketching the graph. Let's sketch the graph here. Okay, once you sketch the graph, first thing you have to consider if this is a linear graph. Yes, it is linear because the power for Q is here just 1, and so if it is linear, this 1000 will be taken as the y-intercept. Let's say you have 1000 here. Of course, this is the total cost and this is the quantity. Once you know it's linear, then you have to decide, is it positive or negative? What's the slope here? Of course it's positive because 4Q is positive here. So if once it's positive, it will go in this direction. So what do you need? You need any point here. So to know that point, you'll choose any number for Q. Let's say I choose here let's say 100. So if you choose 100, plug in instead of Q 100, it will be 1000 plus 4 times 100 is 400, so it will be 1400. So once Q is 100, total cost will be 1400. Let's say that the point is here. So to sketch the graph, you need only to join these 2 points and this is the graph of total cost against the quantity. Okay, now we're left with this average cost. Let's work on the average cost. Okay, the average cost is saying that it will be fixed cost over quantity plus the variable cost. If you remember, this is the formula. So what is my fixed cost? It is 1000 over the quantity plus the variable cost, which is 4. So this is the formula now. So here it is in terms of what? Average cost is expressed in terms of Q, because the only variable you have here is only Q. To sketch the graph, first you have to decide, is it linear? Of course it's not linear, because what's the power for Q here? It is Q to the power of -1. So to sketch this graph, you need to have a what? You need to make a table for it. I'll do it in the next page. I'll write the formula here. I need space, so I'll bring it. Okay, so this will be our table. Let's imagine that this will be our table. So instead of Q, you can choose whatever number you want, but make sure that that number will be divisible by 1000, so that we're not going to have fractions or decimals to make our life easier here. So think of numbers that can be divided by 1000. Let's take, like, instead of Q, let's take 2, 10, 50, 100, maybe 500. Okay, let's say that these numbers are enough. So 1000 divided by 2, to find the value of AC, you have to plug in this 2 instead of what? Q. So 1000 divided by 2 is 500, plus 4, it will be 504. 1000 divided by 10, 100. 100 plus 4, 104. 1000 divided by 50, it will be 20, plus 4, you'll get 24. 1000 divided by 100 is 10. 10 plus 4 is 14. 1000 divided by 500 is 2. 2 plus 4 will give you 6. So you're going to sketch your graph based on this data or based on this formula here. So this will be my graph. This is the AC and this would be the Q. So instead of Q, I plugged in 2, 10, 50, 100, and here let's say 500. And the values for average cost were 6, 14, 24, 104, say 504. Here I'm trying to be more logical in putting the spaces between the numbers. Whenever the difference between the numbers is very big, try to make a bigger or a wider space between them. So once the Q was 2, it will be 504 here. When Q is 10, 104. When Q is 50, 24. When Q is 10, 14. I'm working here, look. When Q is 500, it will be 6. Okay. Now connect these points together. So our graph looks like this. This is our curve. Okay, looks good. So this will be our graph of average cost against what? Quantity. Now we will have some notes, or we'll discuss a little bit about this type of graph. Okay, this was our average cost graph, and by the way, here they choose different numbers and it have the same curve, it have the same shape, even though they're choosing, instead of q different numbers. So whatever number you choose, the curve will be the same. Here is showing you that the graph blows up as q approaches to 0. So whenever q is getting near to 0, the graph will blow up. And the graph approach to VC as q gets larger. Whenever q is getting larger, the graph is going to approach what? It will approach our variable cost. And what was our variable cost in this question, the example that we did now? It was 4. So variable cost is 4, so the graph is going to get near and near to this value, which is 4, and it will never go below 4. So you can check this one by going back to our graph and checking. Yes, look, it's getting to 6. So here the boundary will be our variable cost, which would be 4. It will go near and near and near to it, but it will never cross it. And this is of course the graph for total cost. We already did it, which was 1000 plus 4q, and this is the graph. This is the y-intercept, which would be 1000 here, and they chose any number instead of q to find a point here. Okay, I'll give you a question that I want you to solve it by yourself. The question is here saying, given that fixed cost is 100 and that the variable cost is 2 per unit, express total cost and average cost as functions of the quantity and sketch the graph. So you're going to do the same steps like I did before, and if you have any doubt, please you can ask me.